Nice to see you again, even
Magandang araw
virtual.
din.
Magandang araw. So
Yeah,
I know,
pleased to see you, Miss Clarice.
yeah. So Director Grace, we've been closely working together for several projects now, and I think all of us have been
Yes.
very excited about the implementation of the BD Corridor project. And under this project, we have priority sites, Mindoro and Eastern Mindanao. And it's timely because I'm actually from Mindanao. I'm from Davao City, and you're the Regional Director of Mindoro. So let's focus on your area in Mindoro. Mindoro is well known as the tourist spot for its white sand beaches, but please tell us more about it and its importance in terms of environmental conservation.
Thank you, Miss Clarice. I'm really excited to share to you about Mindoro. And first, I would like to thank this project that it is going to cover Oriental Mindoro and Occidental Mindoro. In Mindoro, there are at least 25 municipalities. And as soon as the project will start, I'm sure that the indigenous peoples of Mindoro will welcome the project because it will be able to help 474,856 hectares of ancestral domain. That's almost equivalent to 22 certificate of ancestral domain titles that will be covered. And it will help the IP population with a total of almost 200,000 IPs. So it will cover that, particularly the 9 IP groups. And if you would allow me, the 9 IP groups are, first, we have the Alangan. The Alangan IP groups are known as the people of the Alangan River. Then you have the Bangon. They are known as the pipe smokers of Mindoro. You have the Buhid. They are known as the Aplan people of Mindoro. Then you have Gubatnon. They are known as the first fierce people of the that area. Then you have the Hanunuo, the custodian of ancient script. We have also the Iraya. They are the descendants of Apo Iraya. We have the Ratagnon. They are the people of the Mindoro Coast. Tadyawan, the people of Yawan, and the Taubukid, or rather the Taubuid, people of the mountains of Mindoro. So yun po, Ma'am Clarice, ang makikinabang sa biodiversity project. And I agree with you. I was going over their ancestral domain, and I tell you, it's rich with natural resources. It's rich with water, the forest cover, the minerals there, as well as their traditional sources of livelihood. So we welcome the project, and we hope that we look forward that it would support the communities as well. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Clarice.
Thank you, Director Grace. I'm really very excited to work with you on this project. And as you know, it already has started, and we have scheduled a series of meetings with NCIP. So yeah, and since you mentioned about the IPs, and it's really very interesting to know that there's actually a lot of IP groups in Mindoro alone. Since you've mentioned about the IPs who resides in Mindoro, we also have heard other speakers talk about the consistent efforts that IPs have been doing since time immemorial. In line with this, what added value do we foresee from the implementation of the BD Corridor project, and how else can the project help the IPs in Mindoro?
Specifically, looking at the programs, the activities that are within the project. One that I would like to mention here is the capacity building for the indigenous peoples. And that's the one that we look forward, because it's a way of helping the communities help themselves, especially so that they are the owners of the ancestral domain. And if the project provides the friendly environment wherein we can document their indigenous knowledge systems and practices, how they are able and how they were able to take care of Mother Earth. That's one. Another also, if we can document their indigenous political structures, especially so in the governance of how they manage their ancestral domain, that would be a way of helping the next generation be able to ensure that all of these indigenous knowledge systems and practices will be one way of ensuring that the ancestral domain would be sustainable for the next generation. So these are examples of what we look forward for the support that would come from the project. I would like also to emphasize here that since I had been following up the biodiversity project, we had good participation. In short, the project itself was able to ensure that the participation of the communities are there. We had done consultation with communities, and also the NCIP was totally involved in this project. So all of the concerns, most of the concerns of the IP communities were addressed. That's why I would say that it's a culturally sensitive program and project for the indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director Grace. So I definitely agree with you that during the consultation process, the IPs in Mindoro were actively involved. And yeah, this is really, or this was, the implementation process was really a consultative process. And also, just to mention that there's a lot of like capacity buildings for IPs for this project, and not only for the BD Corridor project, but for other pipeline projects. So you've mentioned, or if we are to look back on the process that we have undertaken for the BD Corridor project, or other project which involve IP, such as the landscape, the ABS project. By the way, the ABS project will actually commence implementation soon. And then the ETP Marine Wildlife projects. In your opinion, what are the cornerstones of the process that led to integration of how these projects can support the IP communities and promote IP rights?
One of those that I have seen in this project is the recognition of the decision-making process. That's one wherein the communities are given a chance to come up with their community-based plan, which is very important to ensure that the aspirations, the directions, what the community would want their ancestral domain to be would be written down, and to ensure that this would be integrated in the local development plans. And that is what we are aiming for, that because there are so many issues and concerns of the IP communities, we look forward that these issues and concerns are mainstream in local governance, and we look forward that there should be a strong partnership of institutions, especially so in local government units. So just like in the BD Corridor project, I've seen that one way of ensuring and sustain that the IP issues are being addressed is the active participation of local government unit. And let me further expand that in Oriental Mindoro, the good governor, Governor Bons Dolor, issued Executive Order number 26. And it is in this Executive Order number 26 that it created a program for the integration of assisting the IP communities, particularly the IP communities of Oriental Mindoro. And this would be a good mechanism wherein the IP communities, as well as NCIP and government agencies that are working for indigenous peoples, can converge together. We look forward that the BD project would support this, because it's one way of convergence platform, a collaborative platform to help the IP communities. So through their ancestral domain sustainable development plan or the community-based plan, that could be one. Also recognizing their local governance, like for example, as I mentioned earlier, the documentation of their political structures, or what we call the indigenous political structure. And then the third that we'd like to look into is capacity building of the indigenous peoples organization. Those are the ones that we look forward to. And of course, now one also of those I have seen, is the looking at their security of tenure, especially so that these are ancestral domains, and they already have their certificate of ancestral domain titles. And to cap it all, I know that the communities need a sustainable source of income. So that's one of the feature of the project here, to help them with their livelihood projects, and hopefully that we can support their traditional livelihood projects that are focused mostly on food security, as well as their traditional resources like crafts, handicrafts, art crafts, and not to forget, that they are in their ancestral domains. That we would want that they be part of the ancestral domains defense system, as the caretakers of their ancestral domains. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Charis.
Thank you, Director Grace. I'm glad to hear that the local government unit of Mindoro is very supportive of the IPs in your area, and also you've also been working with them, and the NCIP has been working with the local government units, and yeah, I think that's the end of our conversation, and I'm really personally excited to visit Mindoro and experience the richness of your culture. And I look forward to working with you on this project, Director Grace. Maraming
Yes, thank
salamat.
you, Ms. Clarice. And yes, please join us in Mindoro. It's such a beautiful place with fresh flowing water. You will love the fruits. By the way, I just want to add that the fruits are also coming from ancestral domains. Yes, it are the IPs who have been planting the fruits. You have the rambutan, you have durian, you have bananas, and so forth. So these are the IP communities who already started and who are continuously planting fruits for their of course for their sustainable living, but as well as for the community as well. So to end it, in behalf of the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, headed by our chairperson, Secretary Allen Capuyan, and our Ethnographic Commissioner, Honorable George Largado, our Executive Director, Mr. Rogelio Francisco Bantayan Jr., and all the 21 IP groups of Mimaropa, the 63 employees, we're grateful for providing us the opportunity to help the communities, and we thank you for the support through the BDP project. And also, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our partners in the government, especially with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, who is the lead for this project. We closely coordinate with them because we know that nothing can be done unless there is a convergence for all government agencies to help the indigenous peoples and fully implement the indigenous peoples' rights act. Thank you.
Thank you again, Director Grace, and for the NCIP for the support from the project planning, and now we're on the implementation stage. So I know this project will be a successful one because of your support and assistance. Thank you so much.